Yeah, what actually you need to do on the ground, so that when you are on that job role, you will feel much more comfortable at what exactly you need to do. And also, I will be explaining the various scenario which will, like, when you are working in industry, which you will come across. So you are that prepared for all those stuffs. That's what on high level we are going to cover in that entire curriculum. Okay. So, and yes, and I just want to make this session, our entire training, to be much more interactive. So wherever you feel any, that you seek any clarity or any question, anything you want to ask, feel free to ask. We'll be more than happy to answer that. Okay. So just to start with, what exactly we are going to cover. So first, like, that our curriculum will start with going deep dive in that Agile. What actually Agile is, when it started, what is the difference of what are the other different software development life cycle, and what is the advantage of Agile, why Agile came in the picture. Now further we'll break the Agile part. So in the Agile SDLC, there are multiple frameworks, and Scrum is one of that. So what is that major differentiator among Scrum and others? So that will be deep dive on that part. Then we'll discuss much more on what exactly Scrum is. And when the Agile started, there is documentation called Agile Manifesto. So what that documentation is, what is the Agile Manifesto? Because all that Agile principle, Agile activity, Agile roles, everything evolves around Agile Manifesto. So that will be covering. After that, we'll deep dive on the Agile principle. Agile had certain principles. So in spite of whatever framework, Scrum is a framework. Either you are following Scrum, Kanban, XP, or anyone, you need to be adhere with that. So what those principles are and what is the importance of that. Next to that, we'll discuss about the sprint, what actually a sprint is, when to start, when to complete, what will be the ideal duration of the sprint. And further, in Scrum, there are certain roles, like what to name is like a Scrum Master, the major one, then Product Owner, and the development team. So what those roles are, and from each and every role, there are certain responsibilities, certain roles and responsibilities that they need to do. So they have responsibility towards the organization, towards the project, towards each other. So what are those roles and responsibilities? And as a Scrum Master, we'll focus much more on because when you're starting work, what actually your day will look like, what will be the daily activity you'll be involved in. Then after, in the Scrum, there are certain events or certain ceremony which happens. So we'll detail on that part. So like what is the daily Scrum, what is that sprint planning meeting, what is that review meeting, all that demonstration. So everything, what should be the time framework for that, when it will start, when it will complete, everything we'll discuss that part. And Scrum Master services, like as a Scrum Master, what exactly you need to do in the org, right? What is your responsibility towards the product owner? What is your responsibility towards the team members? What is your responsibility? What is your services? Know that to the entire organization. So that also will be covered. And last, we'll focus much more on the Scrum matrices. Because anything we do, unless we are not measuring, right? It's that doesn't make sense. So same here in the Agile. So when you are in Agile Scrum methodology or following Scrum framework, so you need to measure that about your progress, how you are progressing, how the team is progressing in a certain time, how much they are able to deliver the content. So there are certain matrices that we'll be covering on. So these are the high level. Again, I will deep dive further in all this, but these are the high level content you can see that we are going to cover. So apart from this, like what is the user story, how to write user story, what should be the ideal structure. So everything, that's what we are going to cover. Any questions so far? Next one.
No.
Okay, so we're good. Let's go ahead. Okay. So next slide, you can see here that empirical process control. So this is, I would say, the base of Agile SDLC. Okay. So now let's decode what exactly is the Agile empirical process. So you can see here in this picture, there are three elements. One is what? Inspect, adopt, and transparency. So what Agile or what basically the Scrum framework says that at whatever we are doing, that let's say we are starting development today and we are supposed to complete after 30 days or whatever time frame it is, the entire time period, that everything should be transparent. Okay, and why the transparency is required? Because if the transparency is there, at any point of time, you will be able to understand if we are deviating anywhere from our goal. I mean to say, that's where that inspect part comes in picture. So when you want to inspect something, like basically what could be the outcome of inspection? Either things are going perfect, that's what you can see here, or maybe we are going totally in opposite way, going totally wrong, or maybe we have taken some deviation, right? So that's what the inspection is required. So thing is, the earlier you inspect the thing, the earlier you got the feedback, you have larger time, to make sure that you can tailor-made your solution and you will be able to reach it. But thing is, let's say you got a requirement from a client, from a customer. Okay, you understood from your own, or you did some documentation and your developers started work on that. They understood that whatever is written, they assumed something out of that and they started developing that. And let's say after 2 or 3 months, let's say 3 months, after 3 months, you are delivering the solution to the customer. Now customer is saying, oh, it's totally different than what I have expected, right? So why this, how this can happen if there is no any transparency? But when we are talking about Scrum, what it says, in spite of going for 3 months, 6 months, or 1 year, or such a longer duration, in spite of that, break that cycle. You start, that maintain transparency, and maybe every week or every 2 weeks, everyone can inspect that, everyone can check the progress, where exactly we are progressing. And if there is some deviation, let's adopt the change which is required to reach the goal. And in that way, that we can avoid the mistakes, or basically avoid the delays which can cause. So that's what, that core principle, or in the Scrum core thing is that it's an empirical process control. And what exactly it means, that things should be transparent, and whenever required, you should be able to inspect the progress, and based on that, if any change is required, make the change, adopt the change, and make sure that we are on time and we are reaching the goal, whatever is expected from us. Okay. Any question on this?
No.
Okay. So let's have an example on this. So that if you have to prepare or bake a cake, okay, normally what if a person will do, you will have your wheat or whatever, that things you will be having, you will prepare the mold, you will prepare, mix all the sugar and everything will mix in that. And then after, what you will do, you will put in the oven. And now you know that, okay, it will take around 10 minutes, 15 minutes, or whatever time it will take. So you will put in the oven, you will switch on, and after that, you will have that your entire stuff ready, right? So now in this process, when I'm talking about the example of preparing or baking a cake, in this, you have prepared all your ingredients in advance, and once you put in the oven, you will get the final output. In between, you can't change anything, right? But some other thing, let's say that you are cooking on the stove, or maybe that it takes some other stuff if you talk about. So in between, you can taste, okay, how much is the salt, how much is spice. In between, if you are testing, and based on your taste, if you are able to add something, let's say you think that, okay, spice is less, you want to add more spice. If you think salt is less, you want to add more salt, or you want to add more sweet, whatever you are preparing. So if you are able to do those things, right, in between you are adjusting based on your taste or your inspection, that's what we call it here, empirical process. So the next further we go, you'll be able to understand this in much better way. So let's push it further. Okay. So this slide, if you see, I would say it's a crux of Scrum framework, right? So, and this is what all we are going to discuss in length in our curriculum. So, for example, as I mentioned, that what exactly we are going to discuss first is that we'll discuss about Agile and Scrum framework. So this picture demonstrates at high level each and every input output of the Scrum framework. So to start with about the roles, okay, what are the roles involved in the Scrum framework? So one, as I mentioned earlier, so there are three basically roles in the Scrum framework. First is what? Product owner, that you can see here. Second one is the team, what we call, and when we are saying the team, means we are talking about the developers, development and QA, all those individuals who are working on something that will be demonstrated or that will be part of the working software. Those we refer as a team. And the third part you can see here is what? Scrum Master. So Scrum Master, again, this is what in length we are going to discuss. So again, Scrum Master is always an individual. It's a person. It's not a committee or it's not a multiple people in a project. It's always one individual, Scrum Master. Same with the product owner. It's going to be one individual. It's not like for a project 2 or 3 product owners are there. So basically for each and every team, when I'm talking about a team, there will be one product owner, there will be one Scrum Master, and there will be a couple of team members. So again, depend on that project need, team size could be something around 5 plus minus 2, what the number typically we say. 5 plus minus 2 means 3 to 7 or 8, 9. Sometime it will go till 10, but ideally 5 to 7 is that ideal number which the team size will be. And when talking about team size, so we are talking about developers who will be writing the piece of code, the QA who will be the testing the functionality, and whoever the other folks. Let's say there is a UI developer who is designing that front-end thing, or the back-end developer who is writing the piece of code, the back-end logic, the database guy, everyone will be part of this team. Okay, and there is another terminology what we use that is called Scrum team, and we are saying the Scrum team, it means that we are referring product owner, the team, and the Scrum Master all together. So here you can see the team or the dev team, what we call typically, it's about the one who is writing the piece of code. Okay, and now talking about that what exactly a PO will be doing. So we'll discuss in length in third or fourth class, but today I'm just giving a gist, that what exactly that rules and other things are. So product owner is the one individual who will be interacting with the customers, right? Customers, or basically you can say the business, and what his job is to discuss with them, get the requirement, get the inputs, what the business want to that to be delivered in the application, what should be the part, what should be the features, what should be the modules, what is the expectation. So this is the guy, product owner, who will touch base with the customer, the executive teams, or any whatever CEO, CTO, whoever is there. This guy will meet or basically understand the requirement from them. Once he understands the requirement, he will writing the requirement, right? And let's say he got 100 requirements that business is saying that we need in the application. But practically it's not possible that all those 100 requirements can be delivered in a day, in a week, or in a sprint, or in a month. Let's say altogether on high level it's going to be 1 year time, not to develop all the things what business is expecting. So now we know that it's going to take 1 year time. So what to start with? What are the features that can be released in the market earlier and which could be much more useful for the customers, for the basically end users? So that is the job of product owner. So he will get the requirement, he got 100 requirements, but which requirement should go first for development? So his major job is prioritization of all those tasks, all the functionality, what is expected from the application, right? And where he maintained those the requirements to that, what we call is product backlog. So again, what is the product backlog? So product backlog is a space where basically this product owner, this guy, will write all the requirements, what he is supposed to get developed by the developers during that entire development period. Whatever time frame it would be, like 6 months, 1 year, 2 year project. Every requirement which is coming from the business, he will write that, maybe one liner on the detailing, and by default he will put everything in the product backlog. And once he will put all those requirements in the product backlog, so what he will do the next is prioritize. So let's start with first these 5 requirements. We'll work on these 5, then next 5, next 5, next 5, and so on. So he will basically doing what? The prioritization of all those requirements. Right. So this is what we call product backlog. And then there is another document you can see here, product backlog, and here is what? Sprint backlog. So the sprint backlog is what? So let's say that all those tasks are already there, functionalities are already there in the product backlog. Now, whatever is decided and agreed between the product owner and the development team, that in next 1 week or 2 week, in a time frame, that time frame is what we call sprint. So in that sprint, whatever the team is going to deliver, that will be agreed between product owner and the team members, and those tasks will come here. Basically, it's shifted from product backlog to where? Sprint backlog. Okay, so now again, sprint product backlog is what? All the requirements are there. And the sprint backlog is what? It's basically subset of the product backlog, and all the tasks which is supposed to deliver in a sprint or in a certain time interval, which is agreed by the product owner and the team members, will be kept here in the sprint backlog. Okay, and so team will start working on that, all those tasks, whatever is there in the sprint backlog, and the expectation is that at end of the sprint, means that time interval, if they will able to finish that entire task, and the finished work they should be able to showcase or deliver to the product owner or the business team. Okay, so this is again let's discuss much more about the sprint. So sprint is what? It's nothing but it's a time box. Time box means, so as we discussed, that let's say you are working on a project, starting a project, and on high level you understood that this project you will be able to complete. Let's say with number of resources, like you have 10 team members. Out of that 10, one is the architect, 6 are, let's say 5 are the developers, 2 are the QA, and some other folks combination. So with 10 resources, you will be able to complete that entire project in a year. Okay, so now what Agile or what Scrum says, in spite of going for big bang, that starting from scratch and delivering everything at one shot, let's break it. In spite of 12 months, let's break it in the smaller cycle, and that cycle only what we call here is sprint. So that cycle could be from 1 week to 4 weeks. Means either you can plan for 1 week sprint, 2 week sprint, 3 week sprint, 4 week sprint, but ideally in industry mostly we use 2 week sprint, right? So in my case, in my projects, like we start our sprint on Friday and we complete our sprint on Thursday, and on Thursday we'll be having a release if it's required based on that understanding. But normally it's like I would say around 80 to 90% of the corporate companies, they will be following the same 2 week sprint only. Someone will start from Monday, it will go to Friday, or next Friday it will be complete. Someone will start from Tuesday, but this is what all across industry, around 80 to 90% cases, you will finding the sprint is of 2 weeks. Okay, so that's what a sprint is. So you just basically what you're doing, in spite of going for 1 year big bang approach, you are just slicing that time interval. So let's say it was 12 months, it's around 52 weeks, right? So in spite of giving one release in 52 weeks, let's divide that entire 52 week, break it into 2 week cycle. So you will be able to deliver what in like 26 times. And that's where what we just discussed earlier, that transparency, inspection, and adaptation. So what will happen? Every 2 weeks you are working and you are showcasing your work, right? To whom? The business, these guys. So if they feel that there is some difference between what they have expected and it's whatever the team is developing, so earlier itself they can they raise the flag so that you have time to make a corrective action and you will be able to deliver something. So that's what sprint is. Now talking about that on high level how the sprint works, when it starts, when it's completed. So there are basically 4 activity which happens, or 4 activity I mean to say, we are also calling it 4 events. right? So what is the first event that we call is what? Sprint planning meeting. So you can see here this arrow. You start from here and this till here. So your sprint basically start from where? The first meeting is what called sprint planning meeting. In this meeting, what will happen? The product owner who is representing the business, who has already written the requirement, who has kind of finalized, that those requirements and detailed the requirement. So what he will say, let's say that I am the product owner. So what I would say, okay, so next 2 weeks the sprint cycle is, and I want to get these 10 functionality to be delivered. So this guy representing the business, he can ask normally anything that, okay, I want this 10, 15 requirement to be delivered in 2 weeks. Now this is what is his requirement. But who is actually going to work on that? The team members, the developers, the QA. So what they will be doing, they will be going through each and every requirement. They will try to understand the functionality and they will do an estimation. So this product owner will give the requirement, will give the detailed, that walkthrough of the requirement. He will explain what all those requirements are. And after that, what will happen? These team members will be, if they seek any clarity, they will ask the product owner and then they will give the estimate. Let's say in your team, there are 7 team members. Basically, let's say 7 developers are there. Okay. So now you know that, okay, we have a team of 7 members and whatever the ask of the product owner is, if everyone will work, it will take not 10 days, but it's going to take around 15 days to be completed. Possible, right? Because product owner is not knowing that the actual estimation, but who will give that? The team who has to work on that. So team is saying 15 days will take the time. Now product owner says, no, we want something in the 10 days. Then further what will happen? Negotiation. So these are like requirement, let's say 10 requirement what this product owner want, but teams will say that as per our available capacity and the clarity we have on the requirement, not 10, we can go with 7 requirements. So this kind of, that discussion happens in the sprint planning meeting. So what will happen, again to summarize, first product owner will brief about that requirement, what he's expecting. He will walk through all that requirement. Team will ask that clarification questions, qualifying questions. Based on that, they will give the estimate, and then after the mutual understanding, both parties will agree that, okay, not 10, not 8, 7, or whatever number is, team is going to deliver in that sprint. Right? So again, who is involved? Product owner and the team member. So now the question is what this guy will do, what the Scrum Master will do. So Scrum Master always play a role of facilitator. He is not going to advise the team member what to do, or he's not going to advise directly. He will just facilitate. Let's say product owner is saying that, okay, I want 10 requirements to be delivered, and team is saying, okay, we are fine with that. So then no discussion required. They will go start development. But let's say team is the team is saying that it's the 10 requirement will take 15 days, and product owner is rigid, right? So Scrum Master again will come in the picture and he will explain, hey, that as a business person you can give the requirement, but team is saying that it will not take 10, it will take 15 days. Then Scrum Master will make product owner understand that why 15, why not 10, why it's taking more time. And based on that, he will just try to that both the parties are in sync. There is no any the kind of argument and all those things. So that's what Scrum Master does here. Okay. So any question till whatever we discussed? I do not want just to have a one-way communication. In between, whatever you want, you can ask.
It's actually clear, but I don't have anything.
Okay, great.
It's clear for me too.
Okay, so let's say that both the parties, means product owner and the development team, agree that, okay, this is what we are going to work on, right? So let's say again that as we discussed, the 10 days the sprint cycle is. Let's say you are starting your sprint on Monday to Friday. So your work started, let's say Monday itself. Today you are going to start your work, right? The first meeting when you start your day will happen what? Sprint planning meeting. After that, task is clear, task is defined, and internally team will decide who is working on what, and they will start. Next, what happened? Again, next day, let's say tomorrow, Tuesday, whenever the entire team will meet, come in the office, or let's say a Zoom call, a Teams call, whatever the mode of communication team is using, Slack or whatever it is. So the very first thing normally they will do is every team members will meet. And that meeting, what we call is what? Daily stand-up meeting. As the name it says, it just suggests what? Daily stand-up. What it means that every day the team members will meet and they will discuss something. What exactly? There are a couple of points just they need to discuss. First is what I did yesterday. First thing. Second, what I'm planning to do today. And is there any impedance for me or any blocker, any clarity I need? Just need to speak about these things. So let's say as a developer, I'm saying that, okay, yesterday I worked on the login functionality, I started writing code, I have completed, now login is done, now I'm good with that, and now I'm going to write that logout functionality, just for example. So in this scenario expression, you can understand that there is no any that root blocker for me. I'm good with my study task, I have clarity about this task, and I will start that. Maybe the other person can say, let's say, I would say the other version of this dialog will be that I started login functionality on yesterday, but I need to know that integrate that Gmail Google Suite login feature, but I am facing some issue in that API, so I need someone help. So now in this conversation or in this version, there is some impedance for me. So now let's say that there are 10 team members, everyone is present. So if anyone basically have some solution for me, they will say that, okay, no problem, I understand, or whatever could be the solution they will suggest, or maybe if this suggestion requires a longer duration, then they will say, okay, let's catch up after the stand-up call and we'll discuss that. So that's what you can say that that what we discussed. Scrum framework is what? Empirical process, transparency. So this meetings is that doing what? It's showing the transparency. Everyone is involved in the discussion. Inspection. So what exactly is happening here? So as we are being transparent, we are open, we are discussing, and anyone having any issue, at first day itself, it's going to be inspected. And then when you have the inspection, what you're going to do? You're doing the adoption. Adoption is what? Doing the corrective measure of that. That's what you will do after this stand-up call. So these are things will happen, and normally the stand-up call, stand-up meeting duration should not be more than 15 minutes. Ideally 10 to 15 minutes is that sufficient time, but in any case it should not go that beyond 15 minutes. Know that when I started, right, and I would say when I heard the first time this word, daily stand-up, why is called stand-up, right? If we have to meet, then why not sit and discuss? So that's what my understanding of first question came in my mind. So why so? Because that daily stand-up meeting when we are saying it should be short. Short means just we are saying 10 minutes or max 15 minutes. And if we are planning a meeting, that official or a formal structure, that book a cabin, book a meeting room, you go over there. So going to the room and know that everyone, making sure that everyone got the seat here and there, it will take much more time. So in fact, your meeting is of 10 minutes and the planning of the meeting or the adjustment, sitting and all those things, sometimes it may take more time. Or it happens that you have booked the room, you're going and that meeting room is occupied. Right? So you'll waste time in that planning of the meeting. That's why what it says, anyway, it's a virtual atmosphere most of the places now. But earlier, like, that when everyone is in an office, wherever you are, let's say the cubicles, at one corner, at one place, 5, 7, 8 team members, just stand up and start, discussing about your progress. That's why this that word stand up came in the picture. And as we are meeting every day, these meetings happen every day. That's why it's called daily stand-up meeting. Okay, so who will be involved? Definitely, this meeting is mainly for whom? The development team. Scrum Master by default is that part of all the Scrum meeting events. Product owner may join or may not join, but the mandatory thing is the team and Scrum Master to facilitate. Okay, this is what the daily stand-up meeting. So let's say that you started your day on Monday, Tuesday you have a stand-up meeting, and 5, 6 days, whatever it happens, let's say 10 days. At the 10th day, you are supposed to complete your the entire stuff, right? So what will happen once you are done with all your tasks? Okay, what will happen? There will be a review meeting. What this review meeting means, so all the stakeholders from internal means the development team, product owner, Scrum Master, and external, like basically what product owner can do, product owner can invite someone from the business. Business means who the executive members or maybe whoever has given the requirement, he can invite someone that, okay, team has done some progress, let's see what actually they have done. So in this meeting, what will happen? The team members, development team members, will demonstrate the features, what they have done in last 10 days, means in that sprint. So if product owner and the business is okay with whatever they have delivered, they will say, it's perfect. Let's continue the same pace and plan for the next sprint. Everything is fine. But many of time it happens that product owner will say, although you have made a significant progress, but this is not what exactly expected. Maybe some tweak is required. Like let's say that login button, login, logout, whatever some functionality we discussed. The placement of that, a color is not matching, functionality is not working properly, or let's say for the login. So we discussed that business expectation was that normal login and as well as that Google Suite integration, but we have just given option of that normal login, means ID and password, email ID and password you can do. So whatever certain that scenario questions can come, clarification can come. So based on that, they will be having discussion, and whatever review comments that team will get. So Scrum Master will do what? He will again facilitate this meeting. He will note down the review comments and again need to make sure that it's taken care for the upcoming sprint. So our sprint started with what? First is what? Sprint planning meeting, which happens once in a sprint. When your sprint starts. Every day a meeting happens to that what we call daily stand-up meeting. The name itself suggests what? Daily stand-up. Sometime in some org, they will say it's a Scrum meeting. Some will say that it's a Scrum call. But in nutshell, Scrum meeting or Scrum call or daily stand-up meeting, it's all same. What we are calling here as daily stand-up meeting. Okay. So once the review is done, the product owner can say that, okay, it's totally looks perfect, and whatever we have, you have shown to me, I'm good with that. Let's push it to the production. Whatever they have completed, finished product. So if everyone is in sync, then that entire piece of code will go on the production, means that deployment will happen. Again, possible that one sprint completed, you have demonstrated, you got the review, it's all fine, but maybe release can happen after 2 or 3 sprints. But need to make sure that every sprint we are able to deliver in the sense of something that we can demonstrate to the customer. Okay, so this is what sprint review, and in last your sprint will end with another meeting, which is what we call over here is what? Sprint retrospective. So now what this retrospective is? So this again is a meeting to make sure that understand if we did anything, like whatever we have done the good things or whatever we are not on the track. So just to discuss among all the team folks, right? So who will be part of the sprint retrospective? So definitely the team member. They're going to be by default part of each and every meeting. Scrum Master, who will be facilitating the meeting. Product owner, again, it depends on the company to company, org to org, project to project. Sometimes, let's say you are working in a service organization. Product owner is from the client side. So product owner will not be involved. Who will involve? Your team members, you, means a Scrum Master, and maybe some of the senior management, someone can involve in the meeting, right? So what exactly this meeting is meant for? So as you name, by name itself, you can see a retrospective. This meeting is just to retrospect that in last 10 days, means in last one sprint, what things are there, or what activities which have that happened in a good direction, what happened well. If there is anything which is not in track, or maybe that that it's not the optimum way that it should happen. Basically, what we use terminology, what went well, what went wrong, and for upcoming sprint, what are the corrective action as a team everyone need to take. So example could be, let's say that around 10 team members are there. Someone is saying that requirement was not clear, could be one input. And someone can say that whatever a person is facing issue, whatever a person is facing challenge, they can just openly say in that meeting. Someone can say that the technology what we are working, the team has not enough command on that, so basically we need a training on that part. This could be one input, that this is what is the requirement, or basically that if it's there, then definitely the productivity of the team will be high. Or maybe they can say that the library they are using, it's not supportive, or whatever issues are there, right? So everything can be discussed, what went well, what went wrong, and let's say from the entire team we got 15 unique inputs. Out of those 15, let's say top 2 or top 3, which team can agree that we need to make sure that at least these 3 we are much more focused to make corrective action in the next sprint, so that we are moving in a positive direction. So again, as a Scrum Master, you will be documenting all those inputs from the team members, and whatever the current, whatever that for the next sprint it's been agreed, that will also be captured here. And again, in the next sprint retrospective meeting, what will happen? The meeting will start with what? In last sprint retrospective meeting, we discussed that these are the 3 points which we are going to focus much more on this sprint to take a corrective action. So just also you will try to make sure that the team is moving in a positive direction. Whatever that corrective action was required as a team, everyone has taken, and we are not repeating the same issue, same mistake again and again. Okay, so this is what about sprint retrospective. Again, to repeat, the first meeting of sprint is what? Planning meeting. Second meeting, or basically that every day it happens, is what? Daily stand up. Then at the last day, second last meeting will happen, is called sprint review, and the very last meeting event is what? Sprint retrospect. Right. So yeah, any question till now?
I have one question. So once the product owner prioritizes the list and put the product backlog, is he the one who's going to assign the tasks for the team, or is it the Scrum Master?
So ideally, product owner will not assign or basically never assign a task. And the first thing. Second, the ideally Scrum Master should also not assign the task. So the question is, who will assign the task? So that's where that Scrum framework, that comes in the picture. So the expectation is, as a team, everyone, let's say there are 10 developers on QA, everyone, they have agreed that they will be, delivering those tasks. Okay. So what is the expectation? What a term very often we use as a self-organizing team. Self-organizing team means what? The team itself, like that, let's say there are 10 developers. In turn, they will themselves only they will decide. Okay, now let's say there are 10 tasks we have taken, and let's say there are 5 team members. So they pick this task number 1 first, 2 first, 3 first, and accordingly they will be doing. So that's what I'm saying is the ideal thing, right? Ideal is what team members itself, no one else from external persons would assign. They will assign their task by themselves. But ideally, practically how it happens. Let's say in a team there is a senior guy. The senior guy will take some, kind of this responsibility, and he will make sure that task is assigned to respective individuals. And again, depends on team to team. Some team it will happen that Scrum Master is also quite active on those task assignment, and he's also involved. But ideally, product owner will never be involved in the task assignment.
Okay.
Yeah. Any more question, any point, or any from your experience you have worked in, or whatever you have learned you want to share, or you want to check, validate, or any thought you want to add here?
I have one question. Hello?
Yep.
I have one question. So after the sprint planning is done, and which event does the Scrum Master does the refinement?
So if I'm getting you clearly, you're saying that when the sprint planning meeting is done, in which event Scrum Master will be getting the requirement. Am I right?
Yeah, the refinement with the product owner for the upcoming new sprint.
Right. So whatever those meetings, whatever we discuss here, the four, these are that standard, or I would say the official meeting, which is also kind of captured in the Scrum book or Scrum book. What we say, it's captured there. Okay. Now talking about that refinement meeting. So what happens? Let's say I started my sprint on Monday, and it's supposed to end next Friday after 10 days sprint to complete. So every day anyway team is meeting, and the Scrum Master is very much active, and he's able to guess the progress that although they have, let's say that team has committed for 20 stories, 20 functionalities to be delivered, and let's say on the 5th day I'm able to see that only 5 are completed, and considering the the correct pace, it's quite difficult that the team will be able to complete that. So ideally 6th day, normally in my project what I do, so Monday, let's say we are starting on Friday our sprint. So next Thursday we'll be having a kind of a review meeting, and in that review meeting basically all those refinements will happen. So basically we'll backtrack that we have agreed for 28 tasks, but considering that 5 days has been already completed and the team is able to complete only 5 tasks, 15 is remaining, which practically seems impossible. So again, they will run through that, okay, why it happens, why it's taking more time, is there some dependency, and whatever that situation is. But the fact is, remaining 15 cannot be done in the next 5 days. For that, so let's say what is possible. Let's say out of remaining 15, 8 is only possible. 7 requirements are not possible. So in spite of waiting till the end and in that sprint review informing the business, in between itself, they will be that constantly touch base with each other, ideally 6th day, and that's when that sprint refinement meeting happens.
Okay.
Okay, this is the one version. Second, also sometime what we call, let's say that sprint planning meeting. So in between that sprint also, product owner, or based on that that team's availability, product owner can call some of that senior folks, and he can just guide that in next sprint. So whatever I just spoke about right now, it was that in this sprint what is going on, and just in order to measure the progress and making sure that everyone is in the sync. Everyone means basically the team, product owner, and the Scrum Master, that whatever we have committed, are we going to deliver that or not? That's what I spoke about. And now as the other thing is refinement meeting. Refinement meeting is, let's say that I have written 100 requirements. On the first 8 requirements, let's say team is already working, means in the progress. What will be next? Next 15 or 20 tasks. So as a product owner, that's my job first is what? To do the prioritization. Based on my need, basically the business need, and what functionality can add the highest value, I will be doing the prioritization, right? And then after, in between, I can call the team, some of the folks, or maybe the entire team for certainly let's say 30 minutes, and we can discuss that these are the upcoming set of requirements. I have already written the user story. Meanwhile, you can, whenever you have time, you can just have a look, you can go through that. Why so? Because when the sprint planning meeting will happen in the next sprint starting, everyone should not be surprised that there is something very much new we are understanding, we are listening. So there's definitely, if that happens, they will not be able to give a proper estimate. So that's why normally, let's say your sprint starting from Monday and going to next Friday. So ideally, maybe next week, Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday, the product owner calls for this refinement meeting also. Does that answer your question?
Yep. Yes. Thank you.
Okay. Welcome. Any other question or anything? Any other thought? Any point you need more clarity?
I'm good.
Oh, great. Thanks. Let's go ahead. Yeah, so before again we go further deep dive in the main content, I would just like to understand what about the timing, like how much per day you want to have the class duration, 1 hour, 1.5 hour, 2 hours, or how it is.
I'm actually available, so I don't mind even if it's 2 hours, but man, I'm not sure about her.
I'm completely fine if it's 2 hours actually, but I can do that if we push the time from 11 a.m. to 10, so we can do from 10 to 12.
Okay.
But
okay, but 10 a.m. will be a little bit difficult for me.
So what time would be good for you?
So 11 is fine for me. So 11 to maybe 1 you want, or 12:30, maybe 1.5 hour to go with. And what about that? The weekday you want classes, or on the weekend also some other timing? Weekend I am comfortable with some timing adjustment. Again, it's up to you. It should be that it should work for both of you.
Yeah. We can do an hour and a half, I guess, until 12:30.
Yep, makes sense for me.
Yeah.
And you want regular classes every day?
Not every
or
week,
alternate days?
over the weekend, so we can go through everything that we discussed from Monday to Friday.